Not only foraging for food, wild boars also spread terror across crops and people's lives. Lurking in harsh conditions, they challenge every human limit. But whether it's bone-chilling cold or scorching heat, the hunters grip their rifles tightly, steadfastly advancing into the battlefield, where only grit determines survival. Will they succeed in taking down these beasts? Heart-pounding moments are about to unfold, and don't forget to watch until the end to pick the most unforgettable hunt. In sub-zero cold, Nick's hunting team presses forward through the snowy mountains of France, swiftly taking their assigned positions. Amid the snow-covered forest, a hunter keenly tracks every movement behind the dense trees. Suddenly, a large herd of wild boars appears, moving in an orderly line. Without hesitation, he locks onto the largest, fattest one and pulls the trigger. The target drops instantly, and the herd scatters in panic. The next shot only manages to take down the last boar before the rest vanish into the deep forest. A swift, cold-blooded opening shot kicks off today's challenging hunt. The tracking signal pinpoints the wild boar's location, and Nick immediately checks their direction of movement before leading the team straight to the ambush point. As expected, the herd starts to emerge from the snow-covered bushes. Gunshots ring out almost simultaneously, taking down the one by one. On the white snow, only their scattered carcasses remain. A precise operation, leaving no chance for them to escape. At another position, a hunter spots the silhouette of a wild boar lurking among the trees. Not giving it a chance to escape, a bullet strikes the beast, and it collapses instantly. Moments later, gunfire erupts from other positions, signaling more victories for the team. All threats from the monstrous herd are swiftly eliminated, restoring silence to the harsh, snowy mountains. A chase on the Moroccan hillside is reaching its climax. The hunting team arrived early, spreading out to surround the hill. The pack of hunting dogs immediately scatters to track down traces of the prey. In less than 10 minutes, a signal sounds, and moments later, a wild boar darts past Henry's line of sight. Without hesitation, a barrage of gunfire erupts, cutting off the bull's escape route. Continuing to follow the remaining tracks, Henry moves along the hillside, peering intently through his binoculars. Suddenly, a large, fat wild boar appears, weaving through the bushes on the opposite side. Waiting for its body to fully emerge from the foliage, Henry swiftly pulls the trigger. The gunshot echoes, and the boar collapses on the spot, unable to take another step. Another victory is claimed, and a formidable threat is eliminated. At another spot on the hillside, a hunter suddenly spots a wild boar charging straight toward him. Just as it bursts through the bushes ahead, the gunshot rings out almost simultaneously. The clean, precise shot brings the beast down before it can escape. The threat to crops and the safety of the locals has been completely neutralized. The battleground in today's journey plays out like a vivid reel of film, where every passing moment is stretched tight like a drawn string. Bold ambushes, breath-stealing confrontations. Everything is a fight to reclaim the crops and restore peace for farmers. Do these marksmen have the courage and precision to take down the beast before it causes more destruction? Let's find out. The most gripping moments lie just ahead. Right from the very first moments, we witness a swift and precise takedown. This is the hunt of Kwame, a skilled hunter from Kenya. At just 6 a.m., the team was already in position at their designated ambush spot. While tension hung in the air, a rustle came from the bushes ahead. A wild boar cautiously emerged, sniffing around. Without a moment's hesitation, Kwame pulled the trigger. The shot echoed through the forest. The beast dropped instantly, never getting the chance to flee. A calm, calculated ambush, executed down to the very second Kwame's too. Not far from Savo, Themba pulled off an equally impressive ambush. He and his team rode in on an off-road vehicle, heading straight for the pre-designated location. Upon arrival, they quickly concealed themselves behind a rocky outcrop, carefully watching the opposite hillside. Eventually, the silhouette of a wild boar emerged. It had started foraging, already tearing through the slope on the far side. That's when the team's best marksman locked onto the target. A cold, precise shot rang out. The boar collapsed instantly. Another threat neutralized before it could even reach the fields. Have you ever hunted wild boars on sparse hillsides, where the open view gives you, but a single mistake means losing the trail? Victor, a seasoned hunter from Poland, moved silently across the slope, binoculars in hand, heading to a pre-marked ambush point. Not a sound. He scanned every movement in the underbrush, because the wild boars of Bialoiza are smart, alert, and unforgiving. Then suddenly, a shadow burst out in front of him. It was the woman. Victor didn't flinch. He dropped into position instantly. Each bullet trailed the boar's sprint, closing the distance with chilling precision. A cold, calculated takedown, timed to the rhythm of a steady breath. Victor's composure is something to admire, calm and razor sharp, even in the split-second moment that decides everything. Now to another silent pursuit, unfolding across the grassy field bordering the Sierra Moroccan forest. Javier had led his team to surround the field from early morning. Their hunting dogs were already tracking the faintest traces left behind by the beasts. Before long, a signal bark rang out, revealing the prey's position. His teammate immediately took stance, eyes sharp, locked on the bushes ahead. Suddenly, a wild boar burst out. He pulled the trigger. A move with no hesitation, calm, clean, and precise. Under the fading light of dusk in the Hordo-Bagi region, the ambush on the rice field was reaching its most intense moment. Arthur and his team had sealed off the entire field, leaving no gaps for the beast to escape. Frantic barking erupted near one of the checkpoints. A hunter swiftly turned, eyes scanning every rustling corn stalk. And then it appeared. A massive wild boar burst forward, charging through the gap in a desperate attempt to flee to the neighboring field. But it didn't get far. Gunfire erupted, cutting off its escape route. Wild boars, bloodthirsty beasts, tear through crops, attack livestock, threaten lives, and cause millions of dollars in damage each year. Hunting them from helicopters is the only way to track these elusive creatures through rugged terrain where no man can easily reach. In the sky, only skill, nerve, and pinpoint accuracy determine who survives. Do we have what it takes to bring these monsters down from above? The helicopters roared into the sky, shattering the usual calm. Within minutes, the chaos on the ground came into sharp view, plowed up fields, torn earth, and destruction everywhere. There they were, a herd of wild boars slowly forming near the edge of the field. The pilot immediately dropped altitude, bringing the chopper low over the ground, clearing the path for us to begin the chase. Mark didn't hesitate. He aimed carefully and pulled the trigger. Gunfire rang out in rapid bursts, sweeping from the outer edge deep into the center of the herd. In an instant, boars dropped one after another, their bodies scattered across the field. At the same time, Leon's helicopter was circling above, scanning for signs of movement below. The roar of the chopper echoed across the sky as the massive herd of wild boars below scattered in frenzy, panicked and desperate to escape. Inside the cabin, Leon gripped his rifle tightly, eyes locked onto the fleeing boars amid the chaos. He steadied his breath, aimed swiftly, and pulled the trigger. Gunfire thundered across the field, bullets tearing through the soil. The boars were fast, but Leon was relentless. He pursued them to the end, bringing down each one with unwavering precision. My team and I quickly moved toward the open field nearby. This time, I was in charge of taking down the wild boars. The pilot steered the helicopter closer, giving me a clear shot at the targets. I gripped my rifle tightly and fired repeatedly. Gunshots rang out as the boars dropped one after another. This was a no-mercy pursuit, swift, ruthless, and precise. Out on a lush green field, the wild boars began their rampage once again. We quickly maneuvered the helicopter into position, ready for an intense sweep. The aircraft closed in, steadily narrowing the distance to the targets. But the boars were cunning. They kept shifting direction, making it difficult to get a clean shot. Still, our marksmen were unfazed. They dealt with this kind of trickery before. Working closely with the pilot, we closed in. Gunfire erupted in rapid bursts. Within minutes, the wild boars had fallen, putting an end to the destruction of the field. There, a herd of wild boars had gathered below, as usual. We moved in closer, the roar of the rotor echoing across the sky. Startled, the boars scattered in panic, trying to flee. But we gave them no chance to escape. Closing in fast, we opened fire. The shots rang out in quick, decisive bursts, no hesitation. Within minutes, the boars lay motionless across the freshly harvested field. The helicopter veered in, closing the distance to give us a clear shot. Within minutes, gunfire erupted, echoing through the sky. Everywhere we flew, the only thing left behind were motionless bodies of them. Today, I'll take you across the most notorious lands of South America, from dense jungles to golden grasslands, where monstrous creatures lurk in every thicket, ready to unleash chaos. Each trigger pull, every breathless chase, and every life or death moment unfolds in the blink of an eye. It's all waiting for you on this journey. Are you ready? Join me as we witness the most intense confrontations ever seen. John's team arrived at dawn, fully equipped and determined to take down as many targets as possible to help restore balance to the piranha forest. Upon arrival, they split up and moved to their pre-assigned positions. A few minutes passed then, in the distance, a massive figure silently drifted through the trees. John immediately took position. A clean gunshot rang out. The wild boar had no time to flee. More shots echoed through the forest, signaling that this land had become a little safer once again.
Yes!
Not far away, in Santa Catarina, another front was heating up by the minute. Nick's team quietly crept through the thick underbrush, where the beast could charge out at any moment. The sound of hunting dogs rang out, guiding Nick as he followed the faint traces left behind. Suddenly, a massive boar with razor-sharp tusks burst through the brush. Staying calm, Nick raised his gun and pulled the trigger in rapid succession. The boar staggered, then collapsed just a few meters away. One moment of hesitation, and it could have been him lying there instead. Would you stay calm enough to handle a face-off like that? At the same time, deep in Paraguay, another silent pursuit was underway. Jackson and his hunting team were making their way through one of South America's densest jungles. Suddenly, a gunshot rang out nearby. His radio crackled to life. A wild boar was fleeing straight toward Jackson. Then it appeared, charging like an arrow. Jackson stayed calm, took aim with precision. That was all it took. The boar never stood a chance against his barrel. More gunfire echoed through the forest. What impressed me most about Jackson wasn't just his composure, but how lightning fast and deadly accurate his reaction was. The forest isn't always the most dangerous place sometimes. The real battlefield lies in the dry, open fields. In Uruguay, Henry and his team were tasked with intercepting a herd of wild boars that had been ravaging the forest's edge for days. Their familiar truck rumbled down the dusty road, carrying them to the ambush site. As soon as they arrived, the team quickly took cover behind the brush, lying in wait for their targets. The boars here weren't easy prey. Just a single misplaced sound could send them vanishing without a trace. Soon after, one emerged slowly, sniffing the air, searching for food. The hunter tracked its every move, inch by inch. Then gunfire cracked through the silence. Shot after shot, the boar collapsed into the tall grass, unable to fight back. Another stretch of land reclaimed. Peace restored, if only for now. Now, to another front line deep in Argentina, where endless rice fields meet the edge of the jungle. Guns and his team were locked and loaded, ready for a brutal chase. Each member was already in position, forming a blockade to ensure no boar would escape. Suddenly, a familiar shadow darted past Gun's line of sight, a pitch-black wild boar, sprinting like the wind. No time to waste. Gun snapped into position. He pulled the trigger, each shot tracking the beast's every stride. And just like that, the destruction of the fields came to an end. The Pomeranian fields, a fertile land contributing millions of dollars to Poland, have now become a battlefield for wild boars. With abundant and rich food sources, they dig up farmlands, destroy livestock shelters, and drive the locals into hardship. So, what must be done to put an end to this destruction? Join us and witness the fierce confrontation with these monstrous creatures right ahead. At the break of dawn, our team had already gathered at the rendezvous point. Wasting no time, we quickly geared up, brought along the hunting dogs, and split up according to our pre-assigned positions. Once I reached my hideout, I checked my weapon and stayed poised, ready to engage the moment the target appeared. 15 minutes passed in complete silence. Then suddenly, the barking of the hunting dogs echoed from deep within the forest. I listened closely, tracking the prey's movement through the sound of the hounds. And there it was. The wild boar burst out of the bushes, sprinting madly across the lush green field in a desperate attempt to flee. Seizing the moment, I raised my scope and squeezed the trigger. It collapsed right there in the middle of the field. On the eastern side of the field, Henry was in position, hidden and waiting for the prey. Then, out of nowhere, a massive wild boar, easily around 400 pounds, suddenly burst out from the edge of the tall grass. It bolted like the wind, panicked, and dashed right across Henry's line of sight at an incredible speed. Think it got away? No chance. Henry wasn't about to let that happen. He raised his rifle, aimed in a split second, pulled the trigger multiple times. The boar finally went down, over 100 meters from where Henry stood. The team moved on again, this time to a field filled with chest-high dry grass. Following the tracks left on the ground, we spread out. From a distance, I spotted a dark figure slowly foraging a wild boar, completely absorbed in searching for something. I carefully crept closer, moving slowly to avoid making any noise. Then I chose a good vantage point, adjusted my stance, gripped the rifle firmly, and pulled the trigger. One single shot, one more threat eliminated from this land. We moved to a freshly harvested field, an ideal spot where wild boars often come to scavenge after the crop season. While getting into position, Henry spotted a group of wild boars rummaging near the edge of the field, completely unaware they were being watched. Without hesitation, Henry crept closer and raised his rifle. The first shot rang out. As expected, the whole herd panicked and scattered. Quickly, more shots followed, several boars went down, but a few managed to flee into the next field. Not letting the remaining ones escape, we immediately moved in on the grassy field next to it. Following the tracks, still clearly imprinted on the ground, the whole team spread out to pursue. And there, two wild boars were busily digging right in the middle of the grass. I raised my gun, locked onto the biggest one. It must have been over 400 pounds just by a quick look. Without hesitation, I pulled the trigger. The beast collapsed right on spot. But the other one reacted extremely fast. It dashed into the forest and disappeared in an instant. The sun was fading fast, and we rushed to track down the remaining boars before darkness set in. 10 minutes passed, and the barking of the hounds echoed from deep within the forest, frantic and urgent. Then, a thunderous shot rang out. It was Henry, a wild boar, charging at what must have been dozens of kilometers per hour, dropped instantly where it stood. Unbelievable. At this point, Henry might just be every wild boar's worst nightmare whenever he pulls that trigger.